Welcome into the InsideCarolina.com On the Beat Live. I'm your host, Tommy Ashley. That's Gregory Hall. We've got a special guest, and we're always sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. Johnny T-Shirt sponsors us, and what does Johnny T-Shirt do? They sell gear, and this time of year, they sell baseball gear. And they've got the fabulous Tar Heel scripted Carolina blue shirts that the baseball team wears. And why am I talking about baseball? Because we've got the head man, Mr. Scott Forbes. How you doing, Scott?
I'm great. I appreciate y'all having me on. It's awesome to be on and excited to be getting ready for this regional.
It is a pleasure to have you, and especially when you've got so much going on. And so we'll get right into it. And I mentioned it just briefly off the air, but I want to ask you on the air is 18-2 start, you're hot. 15-2 close, you're hot. 5-15 in the middle there. It sort of went off the rails. And I've always wanted to know, A, have you ever been a part of anything like that? And B, what changed to make it go south? And then what changed again to make it go back straight up?
Yeah, those are great questions. To answer the first one, 2018, we had a rough start. At one point, I think we might have been 8-8 or 8-9, but we regrouped, and that team made it to Omaha. And that team actually wasn't as talented as the team in 17 that I thought. We had 3 first-round picks, and we didn't make it to Omaha. We got beat by Davidson. So that was a neat year to see that, a little bit less talent. So more has to happen than just have talent. But honestly, I can't remember in all of my years of, nobody really expected much out of us, at least from the rankings and all that stuff to start the season. And all of a sudden we start hot, like you said, and we play really, really well. And our guys are gaining confidence. And I think we're in the top 15 of a lot of polls. And we go to Miami and we get swept, and we were ahead on Sunday, 2-1 with 2 outs, runner on second base and an 0-2 count. They got a hit and they beat us in 14 innings. And really from that stretch to Virginia, we just struggled getting the wins. We were in a lot of those games. You can chalk up probably, if you play 56 regular season games, what we usually play, just in the game of baseball, 5 or 6, you're going to have some tough days, where your pitchers don't pitch good, you don't hit, maybe you make some base running mistakes. But for the most part, when we were in that, what I kept holding on to was, okay, number one, I really like our group. We've got a great group. They work. I think we've got some talent. And I think the biggest problem was the starting pitching. And in baseball, when you don't get quality starts, it's hard to finish games. So we said, okay, the 2 things we've got to get better at some way, shape, or form were really 3 things. We've got to get more starting pitching or deeper. We got to stop making mistakes defensively. And then we've got to cut back on our strikeouts. That's what we talked to our guys about. But we also have to stay positive. We have to stay together. And like Coach Davis said with the basketball team, the most important thing is that we believe we can do it. And I think this group kept believing. And then you get the exam break. We lose that heartbreaker. We lost a bomb threat game at Louisville, 14 innings. And then Virginia, we score 3 on Saturday to take the lead, and then we lose in extra innings. And that was a gut punch. That was where I was like, okay, our season's either going to go down the drain or these guys are going to maybe find a way. And we didn't react. We didn't respond great on Sunday. They beat us pretty good. We got back, and we had exam break coming, and we played a good Liberty team, and we actually played pretty good. And I was like, okay, maybe this break is coming at a good time, because sometimes, we've had teams here, I'm like, I don't want to break. We're rolling. We need to keep playing. So this team, it kind of hit us at a good time. We beat Liberty. We had that week, and then we won that 10-inning game against Charlotte, which was a big win for us. And I think one of the pivotal things that happened with this team is we won the 2 one-run games at NC State. And even though we didn't play great, I think just learning how to win in those games on the road in a tough environment against one of our rivals definitely gave our guys that confidence back. And personally, I felt like, okay, if we can keep our head above water, we finish at home. And the Hills are good at home. And, I knew Wake was good. I knew Florida State was good. And And then that confidence factor kind of flipped. And, the Wilmington canceled the game on us, which looking back on it may not have been a bad thing because we rested some of our pitchers. And then Alberto Osuna, I thought that swing of the bat, the NC State series, Osuna swinging the bat on Thursday night to walk off Florida State. It's like all of a sudden I see this group of guys and they think they can beat anybody, just like right after that swing of the bat. And they've carried it over. So, I have to give a lot of credit to our players believing in us as coaches, preaching, being positive, eliminate the distractions. Like Coach Davis said, it doesn't do any good to look back. There's still some things we can do that are in front of us. And then they did it. We did challenge our team and say, hey, we're at the point after this Virginia game where we have to play every game like it's the postseason, because it is. If we don't finish at a really high rate and finish strong, we're not going to get what we want. And sure enough, this group, I told them today, as a matter of fact, I was like, hey, you guys, I just want to thank you, because this has been an unbelievable thing to watch as your head coach, because this team has been, every team's different. Every team has a different identity. But one thing about this team is from the start of the fall to right now, for the most part, you're dealing with a bunch of young kids that are 18 to 22, 23 years old. We haven't had any problems. They've done a good job in the classroom. They've done a great job off the field in the community. So it's been cool to see.
With your pitching, obviously you got 3 quality starts in the ACC tournament out of Carlson. Obviously what Schaefer did was one of the most incredible performances I've ever seen live. You're shutting out one of the best offenses in the country. What did it take for them to be a part of that surge down the stretch?
Our pitching coach, who I've known from the day, he came here from Liberty, I knew he had it. Coach Gaines is meticulous. He spends a lot of time with those pitchers. And I just, I knew it was just a matter of time before these guys, you would start seeing more of that, because he was on those teams, that went to Omaha 4 years in a row. He stayed and came back because he had Tommy John in 11. But the biggest key was saying, okay, we got to get Carlson and Shea for that 1-2 punch to give us some length. And Carlson did have the blister that popped up at Miami, so that hurt him some. But we knew with Davis Palermo emerging as a legit back-end guy, if we could get the length more and we could eliminate, defensively, you have to make plays too for your pitchers. And if you really break down that stretch, Tommy, we were giving extra outs.
That was some rough fielding.
Yeah, you got to make plays and you can't give extra outs. And our guys, we spent a lot of time on that and talking about it. But those 2 guys, I thought at the beginning of the season, I thought, okay, these 2 guys are legit ACC starters. They just didn't get off. They even early when we were 18-2 or whatever we were, they weren't throwing 6 or 7 innings necessarily. So that concerned me a little bit. But obviously they've saved their best for down the stretch because they've both been really good.
Let me ask you this. Obviously Vance was fabulous out of the gate. My son's got his best friends down at Rice. He tore it up to start with, and then he hit a wall. And obviously these high-level kids play a ton of baseball all throughout high school and play a lot of baseball. But when you get to college, it's different, especially on the D1 level. How much of a factor was that in the swoon? And then as coaches, it's easy to stay positive, right? But it's difficult to have kids that have always had success and then all of a sudden not having success. How tough was it to keep them there, in the moment? You might be 0 for 10 or whatever. You might be struggling. We're going to back you down the lineup, but stay there, stay with us, and we'll get it. It's sort of like what Hubert Davis did on the basketball side. How is that as a coach? You've been around the game forever. You went from making suggestions to making decisions, like Hubert always likes to say. Explain that process.
Yeah, you look at Vance, and he struck out some in the preseason, and mechanically he had that. It was a tilt of a swing, which he's so athletic and he started so hot. We were like, okay, maybe he can keep that tilt if he gets it done early. But Coach Wiersbicki had repeatedly said, I'm hoping that he can sustain it, because as the pitching gets better and the velocity gets better, you got a little bit of a loop. And sure enough, with our league and the advanced videos, I mean, teams figure you out pretty quick. I was a pitching coach for 10 years, and that I'm gonna know who the best hitter is, what his hole is, how we're gonna attack them. So to give Coach Wisbicki and Vance credit, and I'll answer this in two parts. They got back there in the cages and they completely eliminated that tilt, and that's hard to do in the middle of the season. Some kids aren't athletic enough to be able to feel it and adjust it, but Vance did it so fast that we noticed it even in practice, and we were like, people are going to probably think we're crazy, but we're going to move him from the 9-hole to the 4-hole. And I think we did that at NC State just because it looked like to all of us, he's just getting to more pitches. And, he's a special kid too because he is so coachable. He's not caught up in himself. He's a team guy. He wants to win. So that, and the other part is, I think a big thing that we have to do as coaches, especially in baseball, is drag kids through failure because it's hard. They're going to fail. And all the eyes are going to go to you too during those tough stretches. And how are you handling them as the head coach? Like, are you saying be positive, but you're not positive and you're pouting and your body language is terrible? And it's hard. Like you said, sometimes it's not easy because you got the inner struggle because you're like, it's eating you up that you're struggling. But one thing I'll say about Vance is it never affected his defense. And I thought he's played his elite center field and saved us more runs than any. I was shocked he didn't get the Defensive Player of the Year over Usher at Louisville. He's a good player, but I thought Vance was the best center fielder in our conference. But there are a lot of players like that, and then when they go through it, Tommy, they come back stronger. Like Danny went through it last year, and I think that's why Danny's had so much success this year because they learned how to handle that failure. And in baseball, you just got to go ahead and say, I'm going to fail some, especially as a hitter because you're going to. But pitchers, they can go through slumps as well, and we went through a little bit of one.
Speaking of Danny, Scott, your leaders, Danny, Zarate, I think you had 11 guys honored at senior day that graduated.
We called it graduation day because they have eligibility left.
Some of them have 2 years, right?
Yeah.
What's their role this week? I mean, Danny's won 2 ACC titles. He's played in regionals. He's played in a super regional in 19, right? What's their role this week on the leadership aspect?
Well, really to communicate with me, and that's my job to talk to the guys that have been through it too. Like an example is today, like, what have y'all thought about the practices? It's been hot. Are we going short enough? Is everybody feeling good? So you want feedback and you want to listen to your players, but their role too is to tell these young guys like, hey, you're going to have nerves. And I think that was very important. It's such a momentum-based game, and that's why I'm glad we're playing Friday already, coming off Sunday. And it helps, when you play in a big game. I was glad we played NC State because I knew the atmosphere would be legit. And these younger guys that haven't played in it, I mean, the Bosch probably won't be to hold 10,000. But, it's still going to be – it's a regional, your season's on the line. But when you've had guys that have been through it, they can help those guys, just say, hey, here's what it's going to be like. We have to eat at a different place for our pregame meal because of the locker room adjustments and all that stuff. But the other thing their job is to perform. I mean, they know it. Like, hey, like Coach Williams said, he says players got to play. And that's why we are where we are. I mean, Danny Soretti and Angel Zarate have led us in not just on the field. I mean, not just off the field, but also on the field. And so, but some of our other guys that graduated in Davis Palermo and, Brandon Schaefer's a transfer, but he's an older guy. So that's what you have to count on going down the stretch and going into this postseason.
How you mentioned it earlier, and I think it's the ultimate thing, but starting pitching, how important is that in these regionals? I know they're little 4-team tournaments or whatever, and obviously the first 2 games are you win the first 2, you're in catbird seat. Starting pitching for you, what's that mean for you, and what would you like to see this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's the name of the game, and regionals are harder than super regionals, in my opinion. They've always been. Now, you're drawing a super regional. At the end of the day, anybody can win a 3-game series. In that regional, I mean, like you said, you get in the loser's bracket, it's a fight. You get in the winner's bracket, you got a better shot even if you lose that 3rd game. We're going to start Carlson game 1. Max has just been better off shorter rests. And I think that's from him missing most of the season last year. and the fact that we've managed him so well. He's only at 66 or 68 innings. So guys, sometimes this time of year, if they get that long break, and they're not plus command, Max has good command, but it's not plus like Schaefer's. The more they can pitch, the better. You would like their rest to be a minimum of 4 and a maximum probably of 5. Those 2 for me. I don't like the 6 or 7. So that was one reason I was so excited he got to start Tuesday and Sunday, because I was really concerned if he only threw Tuesday. If we'd have played Wednesday, Carlson couldn't have started against NC State, and he would have gone 9 days without a start. But we need him to give us a good start. We do feel good about our bullpen now. And the way our pitching's set up now, we don't necessarily need Carlson to go 8 innings, because we do feel like Schaefer is our guy that's got a chance to go out there and go 7. So we can manage our bullpen game 1, knowing we may not need as much from them game 2. So really, for me, I just want those guys to do what they've been doing during this stretch and pitch the same way. And I told them today, look what you just did. You played 4 really good teams in the ACC tournament. We just need to have the same approach. Go out there, and the guys have done a really good job of being aggressive and not playing on their heels. And I felt like during that stretch, anytime you get a little gun shy, you just kind of, you revert on your heels instead of your toes and go after teams.
I'm going to let Gregory handle the regional preview, but I want to ask you a question as a Carolina guy, beating NC State in the ACC Championship.
And a former NC State guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll pass on that.
Well, who, me? Well, or you? Who was
not me?
Okay. Yeah, that's a hidden pass there, Greg. Come on, man. For our fans and our guys, I try to take. It's hard sometimes because we're all competitive. I'm a competitive guy, and I was hoping we would play State just because I thought it would be awesome. This is Charlotte. It's going to pack the house, and then you wake up and you're like, okay, here we go. NC State and North Carolina. But yeah, I can't pretend that it wasn't a little more enjoyable.
Yeah, it is. I will admit, I was on a boat out in the ocean somewhere and checked the score on satellite radio, and it said 9-1. I turned it off. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to jinx that one.
Well, I appreciate you doing that.
So, yeah.
It's hard to get those last couple out.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, you start getting in the 8th and 9th inning and trying to get those guys out, and all you hear about is Tommy White's coming up and all this, and yeah, I'm turning that one off. So I'm glad y'all were able to handle business with this one not watching. Go ahead, Gregory.
Yeah, no doubt.
Scott, before we let you go here, Georgia, VCU, Hofstra. You play Hofstra on Friday. You just said Carlson's got the ball, game 1. Just as you've had a couple of days to learn about these teams, what have you seen? What are you expecting out of your team against them? What are you expecting out of them? Obviously, you don't know if you're going to play Georgia or VCU and whatnot, but just what have you seen there?
Well, I reminded our coaches too. I was like, don't cloud your brain too much, because I've made that mistake, all those years preparing for regionals and stuff. It's easy to super regionals, one team. So focus on Hofstra. You can put get our numbers and our reports set up however we want, but let's don't spend our time yet on VCU and Georgia until we know who we're going to play, because we'll figure out, even if you go to bed late or you get up early, now with the video as advanced as it is, you can figure that stuff out pretty quick. So we've been working on Hofstra. The other teams, they're great teams. Obviously, they've got tradition, VCU and Georgia. But Hofstra is, I believe, is their first NCAA tournament appearance, somebody was telling me, but they're older. And anytime you're playing against a bunch of seniors or grads, they're grown men. Fortunately for us this year, we are playing, besides Vance, we got a couple young guys, but our guys have experience at least. But these guys are, when I say older, 4th or 5th year players. They've got a 14-year major leaguer as their head coach. Everybody I've talked to said that, they're fundamentally sound. They play hard. They're not going to quit. They're scrappy. And that's to be expected. And the great thing about baseball, you guys know, is anything can happen. One guy's on the mound. So, what I explained to our guys is that we're going to have to play well. We're going to have to play with the same focus we did against Clemson, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, NC State, for us to have success. So, they're going to be a challenge. They've got some guys that throw a lot of strikes and they're older. They've got some high spin rates analytically. So they're trying to get you to hit fly balls and sit at the top of the zone. But Coach Weirs will have our guys ready. Coach Gaines will have our pitchers ready. My job as the head coach is to learn from my experience. One thing I don't want to happen is these guys, I want them to continue to play aggressive and loose, because you cannot play this game tight. We learned that in 2017. There's one thing I could go back and do, maybe is talk to that team more before, like, okay, here's how it's going to be, because that team had missed the regionals 2 years in a row. This team, not so much. That's why I thought last year, Greg, it was so important for us to get into the postseason, even though it was on the road, because now you know what it's like. So I'm excited to watch our guys, man. You can tell that they're ready, and I've just tried to keep them fresh and not do too much on the field this week.
Well, Scott, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us, and good luck this weekend.
Yeah, thanks a ton. And just, everybody out there watching, please come wear Carolina blue. We need a home field advantage.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Coach.
Absolutely.
Always good to talk baseball.
Yeah, thank y'all a ton for having me. Y'all have a good night.
Yes, sir.
Take care.